नमो स्वनन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादा शिशिरोरुबाले सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाय शाश्वते सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय ईश्वर उवाच मम रूपासि देवी त्वं त्वन्नित्यर्थं वदाम्यहं लोकोपकारका कृष्णो न केनापि कृता दुर्लभं त्रिषु लोकेषु तच्छृणुष्यावहम्यहं गुरुं विना ब्रह्मणान्यं सत्यं सत्यं वदामि वेदशास्त्र पुराणानि इतिहासादिकानि च मन्त्रयन्त्रादिविद्याश्च स्मृतिरुच्चाटनादिकम् शैव शाक्तागमादीनि अन्यानि विविधानि च अपभ्रंशकराणीह जीवानां भ्रान्तचेतसाम् यज्ञं व्रतं तपं दानं तपसेदं निरञ्जनम् तद्विज्ञाय मूढास्ते चरते जनाः गुरुर्बुद्ध्यात्मनो नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः तल्लाभार्थं प्रयत्नस्तु कर्तव्यो हि मनीषिभिः गूढविद्या जगन्माया देहेता ज्ञानसम्भवा उदयो यत्प्रकाशेन गुरुशब्देन लभ्यते विशुद्धात्मा श्रीगुरुपादसेवनात् देहे ब्रह्मा भवेद्यस्मात् तान्त्वं वदामि ते गुरुपादं भुजं स्मृत्वा सर्वतीर्थावगाहस्य सम्प्राप्नोति फलं नरः शोषणं पापपङ्कस्य दीपनं ज्ञानचेतसाम् संसारार्णवतारणम् अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं गुरुपादोदकं पीत्वा गुरोरुचिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सदा ध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं सदा जपेत् आजिक्षेत्रं तन्निवासो जाह्नवीचरणोदकम् गुरुर्विश्वेश्वर साक्षात् तारकं ब्रह्मनिश्चितम् भागोदकं यत्तु गयासोऽक्षयो वटः एतरागप्रयागश्च गुरुमूर्ते नमो नमः गुरुमूर्तिं स्मरे नित्यं गुरुनाम सदा जपेत् गुरुराज्ञां प्रकुर्वीत गुरुरन्यं न भावयेत् गुरुवक्त्रस्थितं ब्रह्म प्राप्यते तत्प्रसादकात् गुरुर्ध्यानं सदा कुर्यात् कुलस्त्रीस्वपरियथा स्वधर्मं च स्वजातिं च स्वकीर्तिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् एतत् सर्वं परित्यज्य गुरोरन्यं न भावयेत् अनन्या चिन्तयन्तो मां सुलभं परमं पदम् तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन गुरोराराधनं कुरु त्रैलोक्ये स्फुटभक्तारो देवाद्यसुरमनगाः गुरुभक्त्या विधायते गुकारस्त्वं भकारश्च कृपालश्चेद उच्यते अज्ञानग्रासकं ब्रह्म गुरुरेव न संशयः गुकार प्रथमो वर्णो तत्त्वं गुरोः परम् आसनं शयनं वस्त्रं भूषणं वाहनाधिकम् साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरुसन्तोषकारकम् गुरोराराधनं कार्यं स्वजित्वं निवेदयेत् कर्मणां मनसा वाचा नित्यमाराधयेत् गुरुं दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसंहितो शरीरं इन्द्रियं प्राणान् सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् आत्मदाराधिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् कृमिकीटभस्मभिष्टा दुर्गन्धिमलमूत्रकम् श्लेष्मरक्तं त्वचं मांसं वञ्चयेन्न वराननेत् संसारवृक्षमारूढात् पतन्तो नरकार्णवे येन चैवोऽधिका सर्वे तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हेतवे जगतामेव संसारार्णवसेतवे प्रभवे सर्वविद्यानां सम्भवे गुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः त्वं बन्धुस्त्वं च देवता संसारप्रतिबोधकं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यत्सत्येन जगत्सत्यं यत्प्रकाशेन भातिता यदानन्देन नन्दन्ति श्री श्री श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य श्रुत्यसङ्गमिदं प्रियं पुत्रादियत्रेष्य तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः येन चेतयते चित्तं चेतयते लभ्यते गुरुभक्तितः गुरोपराधरं नास्ति श्रेयोऽसो गुरुर्मयोगी नेति नेतीति वै श्रुतिः मनसा वाचसा चैव नित्यमाराधये गुरोर्कृपाप्रसादेन ब्रह्म विष्णुर्देवात्मकः
Good morning and welcome everybody. Today, September is finishing, and so we begin to feel the cold. A good opportunity to practice the detachment between the heat and cold and all the pairs of opposites, and look for a higher subject of conversation than the weather, as they say. We remember last week we saw Gurudev's interview by Nancy, who is here present, and he said, mediocre minds talk about the weather, something like that. So that is the reason why we study. Why we study, because if we didn't, our minds will always be living in the mire of the thoughts. And the thoughts, as we know, feed one another, and it's very difficult to just find a positive thought and for it to win over the habit of having regular, common, repetitive thoughts. So it's very good that we are studying this year the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali. And today, as we were talking before, is the time to start with chapter 3. It is a chapter that in general it is neglected because it is about powers. So we titled this session, What is Your Superpower? This is something that everybody is talking about these days. I just typed on Google, what is your superpower? And I found 16 videos of girls or teams, sport teams, actresses, etc., that get together to talk about what is their superpower. So I think that is the subject of the day, and that makes me very happy. As we do sometimes when we are watching a series on television, they give you a little bit of the last chapter so that you remember where we were sitting. So we will remember that we saw Ashtanga, and Ashtanga is another name, or various names that Kriya Yoga has. So it's 8 limbs or 8 practices. They're not sequential, they're not one and then the other and then the other. They're supposed at some point to happen everything at the same time, as in a tree. So the tree has several branches, and then those branches have more branches, etc. So then, when we start practicing this, all the fruits, all the rewards come to us. And there is a section here about the rewards. So very well organized, when Patanjali does his specialty. And I'm going to just look at some of those slides that I have here. So we were seeing, there's yamas and niyamas. So the yamas are like practices that we do and are like out external, I could say, the external, and the other ones are internal. So then yamas is called non-harming, and non-harming, as we see, has many levels. I'm not going to go into that because that was last time, but it can go from not killing somebody even to not harming with our thoughts, or even if we want to go to the 4 levels of speech, I was thinking, because the speech begins with a lower level and then we have Madhyama level and Vaikari, and then it turns into words and then actions. So we want to do really deep into the study, because that is the option that is there. It's like we can go as deep or as shallow as we want. If we really go there, then it would be a matter of finding out how to stop those impulses or drives that lead us to have then harming thoughts and harming words and harming actions, etc. So it can start as early as we want. And I also remember Gurudev mentioned to learn to walk without stepping on the banana peel. So he's always saying, no, watch it so that you don't fall when you step on the banana peel. And the virtue of ahimsa can be applied like that, the same as truthfulness. Truthfulness is not only not saying lies, not telling lies, but also what is our truth. And we have to become here very clear about truth, because truth is relative, and it is what your samskaras recognize as true. So sometimes we're thinking of something and we say, well, this is my truth. But it is a good exercise that I try to practice with my own opinions frequently. It is really my truth, or is something that I learned with my parents, with my teachers, society, what I read, what I study, and all of that makes like a soup. But what part of the soup is really mine? What really speaks to me? So we can take it as shallow or as deep as we want. Then the third one is asteya, non-stealing, same thing. Brahmacharya, chastity, same. We can apply it in our lives different ways. Greedlessness also is important. We can say don't steal, but what when we steal another person's time, for example, or emotions, not telling the truth, making them make decisions that are not adequate because of something that we promise and they don't fulfill our promises. So I was thinking aparigraha is really, really another virtue that has the potential to be studied very deeply. And then he says at the end, these are yama, these are restraints. And we also saw that it is called a great vow, the yamas, the great vow. It doesn't depend on who or how or where we come from. It's called the Mahavratam, which means the great vow. And it says, these yamas are considered a great vow because they're not exempted. So it's for everybody. We cannot say, oh, no, but they're Hindu. No, they're not Hindu. We apply to the whole universal. So it says they're not accepted by one class, which could be the caste maybe, or the class, social caste, or the way we look, or any type of class. No matter what class we begin to, if we want to situate ourselves in a class, we are not exempt from the great vow. Then the place, because you say, okay, that's in Asia, but we live here in America, that's not an excuse. Time, that was in those times, they used to do that, but now it's more modern. No, he says those vows are eternal, and it doesn't change on one's circumstances. They are universals. So he says that about the yamas, about the observances. And then comes niyamas. We saw that last time, so that's why I'm not going very slowly. Saucha, cleanliness, which also can mean cleanliness of your mind, of your thoughts, the house, the space, etc. Santosha, contentment. Contentment is important. Gurudev mentions it at all times, and it says in one of the sutras, people who practice contentment constantly, then they attain the highest bliss, because it's a habit. Like you do a habit of every day getting on the bicycle, and one day, if you don't do it, you miss it, and actually it's something like doesn't let you be at peace, because habits are stronger than beliefs. So we go into this habit of responding to everything in a contented manner. Like we came all the way to this restaurant, and I thought that they would have my favorite type of blah, 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 but they don't have it today. Okay, what else do they have? But there's somebody for whom that would ruin their whole day. And we know, where we fall. We all live in a house of glass, so it's good. I find it very inspiring. Actually, I'm all day thinking about all these things because they're like obsessive. Then Ishvara, to the Lord, in Pranadhani, which is to surrender what we have to that. He explains very clearly that Ishvara is not a god, is not a deity, it's the concept of the divinity. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, they call Krishna Ishvara, And there's parts in Shiva chants where they call Ishwara Shiva. So it is like a concept, the person, special person who is sacred, who is capable of doing many things, who is not wet by water, as they say in the Gita, is not burned by fire, is not cut by sword, that we can practically accustom make it as we need it. So that is what is explained in this book. And I remember always when I talk to people about this, it is this book. There are other philosophies that are different, and they're all very respectable, but this year we're doing the Yoga Sutras. And then he explains here Niyama observances. And so when we have those thoughts that are negative, he recommends in verses, if you want to read them later, is chapter 2 still, 33 and 34. For example, says, upon being harassed by negative thoughts, one should cultivate counteracting thoughts. Negative thoughts are violence that may be personally performed on behalf of another, meaning that we send somebody to do something which is not good, or we are being sent and we do it because we think we have no choice, for example. So he tried to consider all these options, and then they may be triggered by greed, anger, delusion, etc. They can be slight, moderate, or extreme in intensity. And he says, cultivate the opposite thought. But then later on, he talks about the mantra, because the mantra is like a sword that is going to end with all the negative thoughts quickly and efficiently. If we try to remember the positive thoughts, my experience is it takes me a long time because it's not that easy. So I have a few notes here. The practice of Kriya Yoga is not reserved for 45 minutes a day. It's not just when we sit on the mat or on the asana to practice, but it should be done all day. There's great emphasis in continuity, with great enthusiasm and without interruption. So I thought, how can you do it without interruption when all the activities we perform are different? Sometimes it's driving, sometimes it's washing, sometimes it's writing. So how to maintain it the whole day? Two is that we could practice what comes in this third chapter, which is called Samyama. So explaining this, I would say that you can look at me, like now everybody is looking at me, I hope. No, it's not boring you. And then I'm looking at you. So I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. And the second step then is look at yourself looking at me. So step out of that individual and look at you looking at me, or that one that is sitting there that I'm able to witness is looking at that one. And then that one is also thinking that I'm going to get out of my individuality, and then I'm going to look at the one that is looking there. So this way, whatever we're doing, we just practice getting out. It is like those pies that they used to create when our moms and grandmoms used to make pies. Remember, they had something to break off the crust, to break it separated from the crust. So what I feel is that the concept that he practices here that he says we should do, which is Samyama, which I'm going to explain in a second, then we do Samyama on everything. Like say we are waiting for the dentist, and instead of thinking or reading a magazine, we says, okay, I'm looking at the witness that is witnessing, this person waiting here, and I see the nurse there. But what I'm seeing is the nurse. Let me get out of that individuality and think that she is looking, but she doesn't know that somebody is making her look. Like that poem or sutra that says the ear of the ear. That is what hears, not the ear. The ear of the ear, the eye of the eye, the mind of the mind. So the true witness. So we step there and stay there for longer periods because the distractions are many and it's difficult to remain in those states. Simply because the mind is used to it, and I think it's because for many lifetimes. So in order to break that habit, we have to put up a stronger and more fun habit. So the one that looks at you is the witness, and the one that realizes that is looking. And there's another step, really, when you do that, when you get good at it, then there's another witness that is watching, that this one is watching the individual. It's like stepping on some stairs. So each time you become naturally more detached from that relation with the individual. So the practice of Kriya Yoga has to be like that. So what he explains, Patanjali, is that there are all these 8 angas or members that I spoke about the Kriya Yoga, no? Yamas, niyamas. And then there comes something that we can also practice all day. This is not Patanjali, this is me. So we can practice, for example, I was thinking, this next one is asana. So at any time and every time, what's the asana? Am I sitting properly? Am I like talking to somebody like, you know? Or what is my attitude? What is my asana? What is my posture in life in every moment? So if I'm typing, okay, see my shoulders, and make it that everything becomes more alive. This has been my experience since I started trying to practice this. Then everything is fun. Like yesterday I was on the translation and I thought, I feel so excited. And I've done this for ages. But something happens when you pay attention to these 8 limbs. So then it's yamas, niyamas, asana. And then we know this, but I'm going to go through them anyway. So then the other is pranayama. That is, we know all that. So now and then, even if you need to put a reminder on your phone every 15 or every 30 minutes to go like, am I breathing deeply? And then look into your abdomen, you know, because when you breathe like that, it is a totally different experience. I've seen that, for example, when I start waking up, excuse me for being a little personal, but I cannot know how other people breathe. I start waking up and then I feel like all of this full of air, like, and then the silent. And I think, well, that was good enough for the whole day. Let's see what other good things the day brings. So that is a way, and everybody can think of their own, to use the system of breathing to further our sadhana faster, not to go like 3rd gear. Because nobody here, including myself, is getting any younger. And then pratyahara means that we withdraw our senses, our objects, senses of the objects, so they're not so stimulated by what is happening outside. Because we see something, oh, look, did you see this guy? What did she say? And I've been watching myself and I think, okay, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to tell everything. You don't need to be in everything. Let's like pick up your battles, as they say. And that is what he recommends. And the practice is the last 3 of these that I'm getting at very soon. The dharana, dhyana, and samadhi together. Practice them at the same time. So then we do that, the pratyahara, and then dharana. And dharana is the key word in this 3rd chapter, which surprised me, honestly, because to me dharana is just one of the steps. Didn't know it was that important. So several sages describe dharana in different ways. But basically what he says here is concentrating the mind on a place, So the place where we are, I think what surrounds us, that is the word for country. I looked it up, so concentrating on the country, on the land, on the place, on the house, on the room. So we concentrate, like you feel ourselves being in this space. Because that is how they describe dharana. I know dharana from the Kashmir Shaivism is a totally entire different thing, but this is Patanjali, okay, so dharana. And then dhyana, which is meditation. And this one is described as concentrating the mind on something specific. So dharana is not specific, dhyana, meditation, is specific. In what anything works, a rock, a cup of coffee, a microphone, or a divinity, or like a deity, same value for everything. It's not better or worse, but the intensity of the concentration is what counts. That is what is explained here. So these 3 practices, first, one after another in subsequent manner, dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi, or the three together with practice. He says you do the three at the same time, and then you put that samadhi, that three qualities or three actions in everything, and you see it like you're like touching it in the Walt Disney movies, that it gives, light, the little fairies, ding, 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 ding. It makes everything more alive because you feel it with that consciousness. The thing here, maybe I was considering, and I think everybody who's listening would think, well, why samadhi? That is like the highest achievement, and when are we going to get there? And how are you going to mix it with dharana and dhyana, with concentration and meditation? Samadhi is something else entirely, but not in the Yoga Sutras. This is something I keep telling people when they ask me questions. It's two different things. When they say all paths to God are the same, well, not really. There are several differences that when people, philosophers, get in discussions or just exchange of views, there are big differences, and this one is a dualistic philosophy. There's no illusion that is monistic. So God is there and I am here, and not together, much less the same. Okay? So it's good to understand it, because that is the point of reading these books. What happens now is there are 10 types of samadhi that are described. And I thought, oh, how wow, because we have a menu. So with those samadhis, we are sure that when we achieve a point of concentration on something, that something could be called samadhi. For example, there's samadhi with seed, which means we merge into something for a moment or for a long time, but that, which is the source of separation between that and me, it will sprout again. It will sprout. There's different types of seeds that are described, and there's with seed and without seed. And there's also another samadhi that is with support and without support. So we support on some thought or something in order to put the mind concentrated on that object, or simply to bring it to the state of concentration, because sometimes the thing is that it concentrates on itself. As they say, consciousness contemplating itself, consciousness contemplating consciousness. That is higher than the with seat and higher than the one that has support. But there's nothing wrong with achieving samadhi with support or with seat. There are steps. So what he explains here in the 3rd chapter is, we apply this dharana, dhyana, and samadhi together, and this is called samyama. Samyama is the word for these 3 actions that come together as one, and is the basis for the whole 3rd chapter. And he talks about how to do it first, and then the rewards of this practice. And what happens is that whatever we set our mind in this practice of samyama, then you get that what you're meditating in. For example, he says, if you apply samyama on the power of an elephant, so the power, the strength of the elephant, not in the figure of the elephant, not in the animal, in the power itself. This is another level which I consider higher of meditation or visualization, because it takes a lot of more effort. So you do it into the power, no? You imagine the power and you put all your 3 qualities there. You are contemplating, you are concentrating the mind on that, you are concentrating the mind on the thought of the power, which would be dhyana in this case. And then when the merging happens, then that is that type of samadhi, and there are 3 together. It's called samyama. And it says, by doing this, you attain that power. So you become very, very strong, like Bhishma in the Bhagavad Gita. Here I like to make a little deviation, because some people think that this is bad, that this is wrong, powers, trying to practice to see how that works. The truth of the matter is that we meditate and we start getting them. Life becomes easier and we don't know exactly how or not. I mean, that's why people come here, really. Or when they come for Navaratra, because you feel so charged. You feel so high, because the frequency of our being changes and it raises. And Gurudev always talking about raise your frequency, raise your frequency. But for months and months, I've tried, like, what does he mean exactly? And because one day I asked him, and of course he told me that's for you to find out. So I'm trying to find out. The attainment of these powers, people can say that it's wrong, and that it's obstacle for sadhana. That's what Baba said, and many others. Why? Because one has to learn how to really experience them and not get attached to them. But in the end, my thought is that getting stuck in the limitation of who we think we are is also a big obstacle to sadhana, because sadhana is about achieving that freedom. And the freedom doesn't come from thinking that I'm less, or that I'm weak, or that I'm lacking, or that I'm prisoner like the Course. It comes from elevating ourselves to that level. Like Guru said again in that interview, don't get stuck in the mantra, don't get stuck in the chant, don't get stuck in the practice. Elevate yourself and recognize them for the elevating vehicle that they are, and then drop them. See? Now, the other aspect that can happen here before I go to another of these power-looking practices, the mind is used to always believing what it says, what it looks the first time. So you see something and then you think, of course, it's familiar. Here what happens is that by practicing these exercises, you see unfamiliar things, and then the mind is forced to react, is forced to renew itself, to be young again, Uma, as they call, no, Uma, always new. The mind is removed from his, rot is the word probably, boring, same thing, I believe this, I don't believe this, because I see it, because for years I have practiced the same. And the other day, something happened that I want to share, because it was like really, for me, mind-breaking. Because I was driving on a route here, it's called Route 300, and suddenly I see 3 huge bears crossing the avenue, like crossing the roads. And then later when when I came and parked the car, I thought, okay, let me remember what happened. The mind went like, oh, what? You know, like it did that double take. I would expect to see a deer maybe, or something else, but bears, never in my life haven't seen one of those outside of the cage, or not in a circus. So seeing that novelty, which is what happens when you have this type of experiences, then the mind is forced to renew itself. So it's not at all bad, you know. Then you have to double check with other drivers. No, did I dream this? No. And there's this, the chapter 3, and because we're going to see it for 2 months, like all the other chapters, we agreed from the beginning, or at least I did, that we're going to see half of each chapter in each talk. So today is the first half of chapter 3, and the second half we'll see it next month, October. So what it says here is, through constraint on the 3 forms of transformation comes about the knowledge of past and future. So when you practice Samyama also, there comes the knowledge that time is irrelevant and it's actually relative. So it says, through the constraint on the 3 forms, this is number 16, comes along the knowledge of past and future. So you get to know that. And then there's others in which you practice, and you get to know death, like what is your death going to be like, and how to best arrive in that at that moment. So the forms are transformed, he says, when you come out of Samyama, then you see everything differently. The dwindling of all objectiveness and the uprising one-pointedness is the ecstasy transformation of consciousness. So I translated that into simple English. And then what happens is you look into an object, and the object, because you see the essence of the object, not the object in itself, but the essence, the self of the object, so to speak, then you never see that object again or that person again. Because you have seen, your essence has recognized that essence. See, I know it's pretty profound, but at the same time, it's not really complicated. It's just the language that they use sometimes. He explains that as well as the yamas are external and the niyamas are internal, then these ones are more internal than the niyamas. When you do these three together, then they become more powerful. And then it says, for example, this could be, and I think to improve, to improve my own quality of communication, because I've been reading this with that intention, and I cannot know from anybody else, so excuse me, this talk is a little personal. But it says, for example, through direct perception on another's presented idea, knowledge of another's consciousness is obtained. So what happens is you see somebody or you are talking with somebody, and then you do Samyama on the presented idea. Like the presented idea is, okay, let's tomorrow go take a walk there, and then we order pizza, for example, something really simple. But then you are talking to that person and you see the essence of that person because you are applying dharana, dhyana, and samadhi onto that, and then you go into the essence of that person. So the communication is very pure and it's very profound. And you don't need to be talking profound subjects, it's just you go into that. He says you become one, but really, with everything else. And it says here, this aphorism is best read in conjunction with the next one that says this. But this knowledge, so the knowledge of the essence of things, does not have as its subject the presented idea. You don't go into the idea, you don't do samyama on the idea, but on the person who's speaking. Okay, this, I don't know what type of courses people could give with this, because it's really like you just go beyond whatever you think of that person, whatever you think of that presented idea. You may like it or not, but the main thing is you connect with the essence. I don't know you, I loved it. So it says, together with the respective support, the object. So you see the essence and the essence of the object, of that what is being told, explained, shown, etc. And then because of its being absent from the other consciousness. So here also the word consciousness is different from what we studied. It is like you find another treasure and it's different from the other treasures that you know. What happens is this. The presented ideas are many, but the consciousness behind them is not limited. So you go into it, and when you, like what I was saying in the beginning, you look at me or you look at somebody, you are looking at yourself, looking at that somebody is looking at you at the same time looking, witnessing that they are looking at you. And then at that moment, you are one with that, no longer two, because you are in the essence. And it sounds a little airy-fairy, but in reality, it is the truth, because the other are superimpositions of identity. So what it says here, because of its being absent from the other consciousness, then you get the idea in direct perception on another presented ideas through the practice of constraint or samyama, discloses the consciousness of that person in its entirety. I mean, it's worth a try, right? However, this supra-knowledge does not extend to the external object, which means if I say, okay, I'm going to talk to you about this book, and I'm talking, and then you go into my essence, I go into your essence, and we realize we are one. But that doesn't mean you're going to get to the essence of the book, of the object. It's important to know it's not like reading the future. It's just getting in deep contact with creation. And then it says, this supra-knowledge does not extend to the external object or objects on which those presented ideas may be based. So after a while, what I do when I get into this presented idea thing, I get to another book, to another version of the Yoga Sutras, because it's like presented idea, and again you start to think of things with one name with which the mind feels comfortable, and there's another trick as a trap. So then I go to Brian's or whatever other book to see how they express the same thing, but in their own words. And it's surprising because then you change the definition. And for me, like I go around now, the other day I was just driving something. And I thought, yeah, I always call this by this name, but the vocabulary is enormous. You can call it by a different name. By changing the name, you change the shape, the form. Because form and name, usually we think are one. Remember that is from Shaivism. Nama, Rupa, name and the form. But when you change the name, then you may change the form. You may change the relation with that. And I wanted to talk a little about Navaratra because I was thinking, okay, what is it that people love so much? In such a short talk, you cannot go over all these sutras. And I have a presentation I did on PowerPoint that I would like to share. I mean, I'm not going to show it, but I'm going to read parts of it. It's really wonderful. And what happens is that we are talking about attaining powers. Our path is all about power, Shakti. Shakti is the power of the Siddhas. It's the path of the Siddhas, and it means work. It means work like when something works. Is this work? Shakti. No? Like energy in Latin. So we learn about the power. Shakti path is power. We are given power. Mm-hmm. In other words, we shouldn't be afraid of the word power. Why? The power is how we use it. So what we do, and I think it's been done for more than 25 years now, so it's like 50 times we done Navaratra. First, the power of being constant, right? Constant, without interruption, and with great enthusiasm. That's what Patanjali says. Everything you do it like that, without choosing, without separating, I like this, I don't like this. Everything with great enthusiasm, and with the mind there, no interruption. So however many nights we have been doing Navaratra is really wonderful, because we get in touch with all these forms that people have devised to show the different powers that we are holding, the potential within ourselves. No, Gurudev is very clear when he speaks about it, that they are not out there, that they are not able to do anything for us, but that we, by doing the puja, by listening to the chants, by listening to the Sanskrit words, the vibration of the language, then that wakes up in us, like it's activated, like an icon on the computer. When you see a little icon, it's nothing, and then it's a whole program, right? So it's called Devi Mahatmyam. Somebody tell me the time when I need to stop. So Devi Mahatmyam is important. Many people that I've talked with, they have no idea, because never have read the Chandipat really. And I thought, well, I'm going to take these few minutes. If you know it, it will increase your knowledge, and otherwise, I find it very interesting. So we can even organize something to see it later, because it has illustrations. But in case there's not enough time today, it is written in the Markandeya Purana, and Puranas are this type of literature in India that are, I don't know, like stories or tales, popular for the people. They are not like Yoga Sutras, okay? This is for the common people like we are, and this is part of it. And then it talks about this Devi, about this book that consists of chapters from 81 to 93 of the Markandeya Purana. So you buy the Markandeya Purana, all these chapters are called the Chandipataha. They tell the story of Markandeya, a sage whose students had the shape of birds. So he talked with birds, and those were his students. This is where the magic begins. They are in form of birds. And then there's 13 chapters that we chant here, or the Chandipat, divided into three charitas, or chapters, 3 chapters. So it's 13 chapters, but they are also in group in 3. And then at the beginning of each episode, we call the presiding goddess, we invoke her, but these deities are not in the story. They are like a godmother or the supporter of the chapter. So the chapter, the first one, I'm going to tell you one by one. It won't take too long. But they not part of the story. The story is basically Durga and all her avatars. She turns into a Kali and Chandi, Mundi, and many other goddesses that I'm going to mention. And what happens here is that this possessed king, a merchant betrayed by his family, they meet and they coincidentally have the same problem. And the same problem is they're being betrayed by their families. Like the king was sent away and all his ministers and the family got against him. And also the businessman was betrayed by his family and friends and associates, the same thing. But the problem that they bring together when they meet, what is your problem then? My problem is that I worry about them, I miss them, I'm attached to them. How can this source of suffering? And this is where I thought, okay, I may click here with Patanjali. Because remember Patanjali when he says, what is the aim, the one aim of Kriya Yoga, the true goal. The true goal is to what? To prevent the pain that is not yet manifested. Prevent the suffering that is not yet manifested. That is the main thing. It's not the highest illumination, that is not in this book. It's not part of the Yoga Sutras at all. It's just to prevent the suffering that has not yet manifested. So for these two people, the suffering is manifested, and they're seeing, okay, we are intelligent, you are a businessman, I'm a king, but I miss them, I cannot, stop this suffering. So they go see a sage, as always, and they meet him. Now, I'd like to say something about the structure of the book. The seer is he who originally realized the knowledge and passed it on to us. So every book of this kind has several components, and sometimes there are the characters in the story, because all hymns of praise are prefaced by the same elements. This is also interesting, I find it, because like, for example, Shiva Mahimna, it says this one met with this one, and the meter of this chant is this, and then they talk about this, and the result is this. The Guru Gita, of course, Ashtavakra Gita, all these books are the same structure, literary structure. It's important, I think. So then, a meter, a certain number of syllables with which it is expressed. So when we chant it, and now we see that in India they chant it different, the different meter. The meter is important because that's how we memorize the words, okay? And then a deity whose attributes are stalled. So this deity is the main, like, a subject of power, of adoration there, and then the whole story goes around that. But in this particular case, the Chandipat, there's two stories. There's like a story inside another story. It's called a parable. Like Jesus Christ used to use this literary expression to tell his stories. It's a story inside another story. I'll explain now. And then the seed or essential nature, they always say bija, da, da, da. It's many kinds of bija or seeds. A specific energy, they also say, okay, this is an energy that comes for the Chandipat, for the Guru Gita, there are different deities and different specific energies. And the principles that are for the purpose of the recitation. So we chant for what? In the Guru Gita it says we chant to attain the 4 goals of life, no? Wealth and pleasure and liberation, etc. For each chant that we do, for each chant of praise, we specify, like, it's like a GPS, I think, and we say, okay, well, what I want to attain from this is this. And then you, okay, there's 3 routes, no? And then all of this is called Vini Yoga. Vini Yoga, appropriate application. I'm not going to go back. So, the presiding deity of episode 1 is Kali. Kali, in the Chandipat, what happened is that the demons are torturing the world, and the world realizes that they pray and pray to so many gods and they cannot resolve the problems. So they get together and they pray that they please put their energies together so that they create a real powerful God that can defeat the demons. So they get together and they do it. They put all the Shaktis together, like. And then what comes out of that? It comes the most beautiful woman, and they must have been surprised. Oh, what a woman, so beautiful, with 10 hands and 10 faces. And then she has the sword of worship, the discus of revolving time, the club of articulation. So each one of the gods gives her the best weapon. So she's totally equipped. And this number 10 means the 10 directions that we move in. So which is north, south, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, above and below. So that's why she has 10 faces, and she also has 10 arms. And the story is being told by the sage whom the king and the businessman met. So they ask him, what is the source of our suffering? Please explain to us, O saint. And the saint is, I'm going to tell you a story, because that is the Oriental way to do it. No? The king asked the sage, our minds are drawn into attachment and egotism. What is it, O exalted one, that causes this ignorance, even in the presence of our wisdom and understanding? So he's saying, we're smart, but what is happening? We cannot resolve this. The businessman and I are as fools without the capacity of discrimination. The Rishi replies, we would say Rishi, Uvacha, Maya, the great measurement of consciousness. So Maya is the culprit here. Is the cause of the circumstance of all objects in creation and their relationships, because our lives is based on the relationships with the objects. We like it, we don't like it, aversion, attachment, we know all that. And then the great Lord of the universe, which is here Vishnu, is put to sleep, and therefore the world is deluded by her. So all this confusion that you are suffering from is because of Maya. Then the second chapter brings Lakshmi. Lakshmi, with other precious things, came from the foam of the ocean when it was churned, etc. It's a well-known story. And that's when we celebrate Deepavali or Diwali. It's part of this. They create the Devi then, and there's 9 aspects of Durga. That this is where, if we study all of these 9 aspects, we can see what we find within. Because there's one, for example, Kalaratri, who destroys ignorance, represented as time, Kala, and the darkness of the night, Ratri, and I have the pictures here. Then is the next day, second day of Navaratra. So what does it mean? You know, the power of the moon is like it changes every 16 times a month, and we change with it, and our moods change, and society changes, and the police are in alert when it's full moon. You know, it's not like just anything, it is important. And here is a story about the moon. So there's a story that when the Kauravas and the Pandavas, so the two families that were fighting for the kingdom, the Bhagavad Gita, the Kauravas did all the rituals and all the pujas and everything, and read probably the horoscopes and everything, and then they said, okay, if we want to win, we have to start the war on the day of Amavasya, which is the black moon. So they organized to start the war that day, or that night rather, and that where we defeat the Pandavas, because the stars will be with us. But Krishna is listening, and then he says, no way. So he thinks, how do I make them start one day earlier? So he goes in with a conch, he's honoring the ancestors, and then the moon and the sun, they come together and they say, what's happening here? The Lord is doing the prayer, the Shraddha, but I think probably his cell phone is not working because it's not today, it's tomorrow. So they come together and they say, Lord, excuse me, but you are doing the Shraddha ceremony, and today is not Amavasya. And Krishna says, what is Amavasya? He says, the moon and the sun come together. He said, well, you are here together, so that makes it Amavasya. So that is the day when then the war started, so that according to Krishna's plan, the Pandavas would win. So in other words, that is always very ingenious. So I'm not going to go with the 9 aspects of Durga, but what I'm trying to say is that we can also see it from the viewpoint of what can we grow within with the explanations. So there's 9. The last of the 9 is called Shailaputri, which is the daughter of the Himalayas. daughter of the mountain. And she also has the moon in her head. And finally, in her hand, Saraswati, she's very popular with students. Every time they're going to have exams, they pray to Saraswati. So she has a book, and during the 9 and 10 day of Navaratra, she's worshipped in the form of books, and children traditionally are initiated into the world of letters, writing and reading on that day. So a mala of crystals, which represents the power of spirituality, pots of sacred water, the veena, the instrument that she plays, and all of that. Then she defeats the demons. I have a video also with music. And then one of her names that she attains is Chanmundi, because she destroys these two. You will hear these words very much when we're chanting the Chandipa. Chanda Munda, Chanda Munda. So she destroys both. It's called Chanmundi. And then Rakta Vijaya, which is a demon that when it gets hurt, it's about a sword or an arrow. Every drop of blood that falls on the ground begets another demon. So the more he is hurt, the happier, because more demons come from each drop of blood. So it's called Rakta Vijaya, which means, and then she drinks everything, all the blood. And so in the end, the Devi, of course, prevails over everything, and that we do it, and then we commemorate the 8th day, Ashtami, 9th day, Navami, the day of Ram, in the 10th day, Dashera, Vijaya, which is the day of victory. So all of this, we can go over that with whoever is interested. And back to chapter 3, then what I would say is whoever is interested, why don't you read, for example, from 28 to 55. You don't have to read the whole thing, just this, the explanation of the sutras, because that will give us for next month a base on which to really calculate how it is easier for each person to attain this, which practices are more like they speak to you. And as I was saying, I would like to end with that if having superpowers is not good for sadhana and it may be an obstacle, as big an obstacle as that is a sense of limitation of being less. So to weigh those two and then go ahead and continue studying the 3rd chapter of the Yoga Sutras. So we'll see you tomorrow for the installation of the Devi. Thank you for listening. Sadhgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.
Harihi Om. Sansamityuvase vrishannagne vishva nyarya ilaspade samityase sanobasunya vara sangachadvam samvadadvam sambho mana anti janata deva bhaganyatha purve sanjana upasate samano mantra samiti samani samanam manah sachittame esham samane tramanitra eva samane navo avisha juhomi samani va akuti samana hridayani va samanamastu bhomano yatha vasu sahasati Hari Om. Om Dyo Shantirantarikshabdo Shanti Prithivi Shantirabah Shantirogadayah Shanti Vanaspatayah Shantirvishve Devah Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvabhuma Shanti Shanti Reva Shanti Sama Shanti Reli Jato Yataha Samihase Tato No Abhayam Kuru Shanna Kuru Prajabhyo Bhayannaha Pashubhya Om Shanti 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 Sushantirabhavatu Sarvarishta Sarvopadrava Shantirastu
today's program. And thank you, Nityeshwari, for your talk today. Thank you for all attending here in person and for tuning in virtually. There's a couple of things I wanted to announce. Thank you, Nityeshwari, for also introducing us to Navaratra, one of my favorite times of the year, which comes twice every year, in the spring and in the fall. So it's really about the cycle of the seasons and the energy that makes the whole world work. And so invoking the Devi, the feminine principle, is just a wonderful time to settle into that space inside in which that exists. And it's the basis, the foundation, the Shakti. The Divine Mother is the basis for everything that we do here, everything that happens here, the mantras, the rituals, the meditation, the Shakti Pat, the Guru, the disciple. All these things are contained within the study of the Devi. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to settle in, whether we come personally, and you're most welcome and warmly invited to come and spend the time here sitting with Govind, who will be conducting the ceremonies and chanting the Chandipat every morning from 9 o'clock till 12 noon, and in the evening we will chant the Lalita Sahasranam. And in that we come to understand that Lalita is not just 1,000, but everything that can be named. So all the different manifestations and forms that she takes, the Devi takes, are invoked. And so we come away with a feeling of being saturated with that awareness and with that love and with that compassion that's so needed in the world. So it's a way of giving thanks, a way of appreciating everything that we have, and maybe asking for more, asking for plentifulness in our lives and in our spiritual life as well. Also, there's an intensive coming up on the 29th of October. That is, you should put that in your sights. It is in commemoration of Baba Muktananda's 40th anniversary of his Mahasamadhi back in 1982. So that's going to be a special intensive, and Gurudev it'll be focused around meditation, and the talk that Gurudev will be giving will be recorded and broadcast during the intensive, is meditation stills the wandering mind and establishes us forever in a state of peace. Now I like that forever part. So we can look forward to that. And then also a really wonderful feature will be a virtual pilgrimage to all the 4 Shanti Mandir ashrams. It will be Kankal, Shanti Mandir Kankal in northern India, Shanti Mandir Ganeshpuri, which many of us know. We spend much time there with Baba Muktananda. Shanti Mandir Magod, where Gurudev resides, and it's a great place of pilgrimage and tremendous activity these days. And then the newest is Shanti Mandir Ganeshpuri, and then Shanti Mandir Walden, of course, where we're sitting right now. So there will be a tour of all those places. So that'll be in the intensive experience, this yatra. So that's an event, as Devyani says, not to be missed. So mark that in your calendar. It's going to take place on the 29th of October, Saturday. And you can come personally, or you can sign up for the intensive, and then it will be sent to you on the 31st. You'll get all these details in your email. And that'll be available to you for you to watch for the following 2 weeks. So those are the 2 events that are coming up. And one sad bit of news, inevitable for all of us, but Brian Katz, who's you may know as the husband of Mangala Katz, passed away yesterday after a long illness, and passed very peacefully. He's a very great friend of Shanti Mandir, and many of us considered him, he's a friend to many of us, a very strong follower of Judaism, and a very holy person, really. So he passed away peacefully, so our prayers go out to him that his transition be smooth and exalted. And our condolences to Mangala and Brian's family. So with that, we can all come up for darshan here, and then we'll have lunch down, I was going to say by the stream, in Namaste, which is by the stream. Thank you.